Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Receiving Noor Weekly Quran Study. We are continuing to journey in Surah Baqara, second chapter of the Quran. This will be our last Monday session before Ramadan. During Ramadan, we will have a change in our study schedule. We'll be meeting on Sundays instead of Mondays. Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. And we'll also switch to different passages from the Quran. Instead of continuing from Baqarah, Surah Baqarah will be having different selections each week from for a short Ramadan study each time. So with that, we turn to Dr. Yamina, who will lead us in tonight's study. And we're welcome to join in, absolutely welcome to join in with questions and comments, either during the discourse or after the discourse in the Q&A session, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So we stopped at ayah 13 and today we'll pick from ayah 14 inshallah. So in ayah 14 and 15 we're told, remember the Surah Al-Baqarah started telling us about Al-Muttaqeen, the God conscious, and then the disbelievers, and shortly about the disbelievers, only 2 ayat. And now we have this long passage telling us about al-munafiqun, the hypocrites, the dissemblers. And we talked about why the hikmah, the wisdom in this, and how it is actually a rahmah. There is wisdom and there is mercy and compassion for us, and it is guidance, it is guiding us. So we are benefiting from the description of the munafiqun, meaning of that attitude of nifaq, of hypocrisy and dissembling. So in ayah 14 and 15 we're told, Bismillah, and when they meet those who believe, they here are the hypocrites, the dissemblers, and when they meet those who believe, they say, we believe. But when they are alone with their Satans, they say, we're really with you. We were only mocking. It is God who is mocking them and allowing them more slack to wander blindly in their insolence. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ الله يستهزئ بهم ويمدهم في طغيانهم يعمهون. So in ayah 14, we told when they meet those who believe, they say we believe, and when they are alone with their Satans, and I think I did talked about it last week because someone asked a question. Here, when they're alone with their Satans, وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ, shaitan means something evil and wicked. And that's why Iblis is called Satan. And here literally there is Satan in the ancient usage of the Arabic word. The term shaitan is derived from the verb shatana. And shatana is one who becomes remote, distance from all that is good and true. And so shaitan is someone who is get away, distance, remote from goodness and truth. And that's why someone who remains alone with their Satans, or with his or her Satans, means someone who is insolently persistence in evil doing. In Arabic, tamarrud. It's like kind of rebellion, but rebellion against the truth, against the human conscious. And so they become like Satans themselves. And it has been sometimes translated or interpreted as impulses that makes the person do evil, wicked things. So if you remember, in the previous ayat, various crimes of the dissemblers were mentioned. And here, one more crime is being added, which is the mockery and the scorn of the believers and therefore of belief and of the truth. And before, if you remember, they accused the believers of being weak-minded, and they spread corruption, and they were depraved. Just to give us an idea of what's going, the description of the hypocrites started in Ayah 8, where we were told, and there are people who say, we believe in God and the last day, when really they are not true believers. They seek to deceive God and those who have believed, but they only deceive themselves, though they do not realize it. In their hearts there is a disease, and God has increased their disease. An agonizing or painful torment awaits them because they persist in lying. And when they are told, do not cause corruption in the earth, meaning that it means they are causing corruption, they say, we are only improvers of things. But really, they are the corruptors, although they do not realize it. And when they are told, believe as other people believe, they answer, should we believe as the weak-minded do? But they are the fools, though they are the weak-minded themselves, though they do not know it. And now we are told that they when they meet those who believe, they say we believe, but actually when they are alone with their satans, they say, we're really with you, we're only mocking. So the God conscious, we were told in the very beginning, al-muttaqeen are the true believers, whereas the hypocrites are not. And the distinguishing factors between these two groups, or these two attitudes, let's say, because as far as we're concerned, it's more about attitudes, is belief, iman. It is the fact that for the God conscious, that belief has become a certainty because they live, they are authentic, they are genuine, they act according to their belief. That's their choice, that's their intention. Now with the hypocrites, they may know exactly what they are claiming to believe in, but they are not acting according to what they claim. That's the where the hypocrisy lies. And so it means that iman is important. And it has also important qualities or important consequences as far as the believers are concerned. So belief, for instance, is a support in the face of pain, in the face of suffering, in the face of difficulty, because life is not always easy. And also, it's a source of assistance when we experience fear or anxiety or anything. The believer finds a source of support and assistance in belief in God alone. And as a result of being a support and a source of assistance, the believers, the true believers, have self-respect, they have dignity. So they are not foolish or pathetic or servile. I don't know how to say someone who is dhalil, who has dhilla. If any one of you knows a better word, please go ahead. The opposite of being dignified, of having dignity. And the believers have compassion. And so having compassion, they don't look down on others. They don't bully other people. They empathize with everyone, with everything. And they have respect for the truth because they know its worth. And so they can never make fun of it. They can never say we're mocking, as the munafiqun, the hypocrites, do. And nifaq, or dissembling.
Yamina, just before you go on, so I want to just kind of recap what you just said. So Iman has then three important consequences or qualities. Number one, you rely on
no, dignity and self-respect, because you rely on God alone,
the source of everything. So because we rely on the source of all power, one God, then that brings the dignity, self-respect, in the sense that I don't have to beg
to abase myself and
abase myself. So Iman, that's one. Number two, compassion.
True compassion.
True compassion.
We know that we are all one before God, and
we
no looking down.
No looking down. We're all needy creatures. So Iman has that second consequence of compassion. And then three, respect for truth.
Yes.
Respect for truth. And that's the opposite of making mockery. So I feel like respect for truth is more like, respect for truth is a consequence of genuine Iman, believing in unseen God, in that it's the opposite of faking, or not faking, but deluding ourselves. Our ego.
Having respect for the truth means we take it seriously because we know it's worth it. Means I don't just claim it and then go and do something else. It means authenticity. It means integrity.
So it's very interesting because it's Iman, but it has this all of these three aspects. It's very interesting, like inward, outward, and interrelations. I mean, like from one hand, it gives dignity in the sense that I believe in one God. Ideally, if I had this attitude, I believe in one God. I do not base myself before anything. At the same time, that I have compassion for my fellow creatures, because I know that there's only one God, which means I'm not God. I'm not going to play God. I'm not going to debase anybody. And then three is I have a respect for truth in the sense that I have dignity because of believing in God, and I also have humility in the sense that I defer to truth. I don't.
I'm not biased, for instance.
I'm not biased. I don't try to distort things so that they will fit my benefits, my short-term goals. I have respect for truth. So in one sense, it really supports me because it dignifies me. I don't have to fear anybody but God. At the same time, it reigns in my ego because it isn't about me. Even if it's not convenient, I have to stand up for truth and I have to respect truth. And then compassion. So because I rely on only one God, that doesn't mean I turn away from people. I don't need anybody. I just need God. Yes, that's true. At the same time, we're all creatures. So I'm not going to look down upon anybody. So it's so interesting. It's like all of these three very profound attitudes come out of affirming that there is only one God. I'm not God. Nothing else is God. This is really beautiful.
And that respect for the truth, like it's not being biased, it's not being self-serving, like being self-absorbed, it's all about me, distorting the truth to fit my little small interests. And we can understand because the believer in one God also believes in Akhirah. They have certainty in Akhirah. Because you can't believe in one God only if we have no perspective of Akhirah. And having that certainty of Akhirah means that we are aware and we don't run away from the reality that this world is transient. So it changes our perspective totally, and therefore our perception of what we think is a self-serving interest or benefit. When there is no akhirah, it seems like it's a big, very important thing, and we may incline to be ready to falsify things, to distort the truth to benefit us. But when we have that certainty in akhirah, then we get the right perspective, and those what we think is benefit actually it's not. If it's reached through a lie, it's not going to be a benefit. And if I made a mistake, why should I cover it? If there is akhirah, I'd better ask for forgiveness for it rather than trying to cover it up, for instance. So it's very interesting how all these attitudes are actually very intricately interconnected, and they all fit into place when there is that certainty and belief in God, and therefore in akhirah.
And also, like adding to the respect for truth, being related to iman, if I believe in one God only, then if I worship only one God, then it's easier to respect truth, because when truth doesn't seem convenient, let's say if I I'm honest, I may lose business, or if I'm honest, I may not be popular, or I may lose this particular benefit that I'm seeking. These calculations are easier to resist when you realize that my sustenance or my needs, they aren't dependent on anything except my God.
And actually, not only they are easy to resist, actually they fall apart within the perspective of akhirah, because we tend to magnify things through our ego telescope when we forget about akhirah and forget about the world is transient, as though if I'm going to stay here forever and I'm never going to meet my Lord, and how do you say hisab? I'm not accountable as though for anything. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So nifaq is, now once we understand this, now it's easier to understand the attitude of nifaq, of dissembling and hypocrisy, because it's the opposite of iman, of belief. And so the dissemblers are, instead of having self-respect and being dignified, they are servile, they are, how do you say, they're ready to do anything that leads to gain benefits, and that leads to their abasement, because it's like everything is like everything that they perceive as a source of benefit becomes like a god they worship in their own perception, misperception, let's say. And we were told they have a desire to corrupt the truth, at least, because to fit what they think is their benefit, because they are unaware, or they do not want to acknowledge the reality that this world is transient, and that transience in this world is pointing and indicating, it's an area to everlasting akhirah. And so they are arrogant, because they compensate for their abasement with false arrogance, with false pride. And so they look down at others. They look down at others to make themselves feel good and more superior. And that's what we learned so far. And we were told they're hypocritical and liars. Remember, lying was the biggest crime they committed, because lying is the opposite of belief. Belief is acknowledging and confirming the truth, and lying is not rejecting, but camouflaging the truth, like, or even with the hypocrites, they pretend to be accepting it, but actually they don't. And that's why in Ayah 14, we're told when they meet those who believe, they say, we believe. They are liars. And so dissembling eventually corrupts the human heart, and it makes the person feel, or let's say the spirit, the ruh, have a feeling like an alien or orphan, like lonely, has no owner, no protector, no source of support. Remember, for the believers, belief was that al-urwatul wuthqa, that handle of support, that connection to the source of support, to their Rabb, to their protector. Here, there is no protector, no Rabb. So the person feels like an orphan. And this makes them scared. And so out of fear, the dissemblers hide themselves. They hide their dissembling selves, let's say, and they hide their deceits and lies and corruption. Because deep down, we know, everyone knows that that's not a nice thing to show. And that's indicated in the phrase, وَإِذَا خَلَوْا. خَلَوْا implies seclusion. And when they are alone, it means alone, only themselves. And so in this attitude, in this way of being, compassion is not going to flourish. Even if there is some innate, fitri compassion in human being, with this kind of attitude, that compassion is going to, how do you say the opposite of flourishing? It's going to fade, it's going to die away, to diminish. And so it leads the dissemblers to easily, how do you say, to harm others, to do things that are mischievous, that are harmful. Because when there is compassion, when there is kindness, that kindness stops us from harming others. But here, the compassion starts fading away and fear takes over, and it seems like the person justifies to themselves that as if they have to protect themselves, they have to do this, and they rationalize it like they are doing it to defend themselves, but the other person did nothing to you. And so they spread corruption and they harm others with no good reason, and this leads to dissension, to treachery, especially when people can't trust each other. It's going to harm the society a lot. And when they feel weak, they don't seek help from God like the believers, but in their Satans, as we are told. It means in even more wickedness. So they think, oh, I did not act enough, I will have to do more. But more what? More corruption, more wickedness, more harm, more lying. And it becomes like a vicious circle. So from what we learned so far, we learned that these dissemblers, they are fickle. Why are they fickle? Because they attach no importance to the truth. The truth does not really matter to them. What matters to them is themselves and how they are seen from outside, from others. And why do they want to be seen a particular way? Not out of respect for others, but because of their own wishes and desires. They want to achieve something, whatever that is. And so they lie because they have no respect for the truth. They can lie easily and make excuses to cover their mistakes, to protect themselves. They think they're protecting themselves because in their worldview, in their perception, they don't take akhirah, they don't take everlasting life, they don't take God into the Rabb into consideration. So here and now, they forget that God knows whatever they are doing, or even if they lying, they're only lying to themselves and deceiving themselves. And they will one day be held accountable directly and explicitly. Here in this world, we are held accountable in various indirect ways for those who have the insight and learn from what is brought into their awareness and their what is created here and now for them, because everything is a sign, everything is an ayah guiding us to the right path, the path of truth, the path of happiness in this world and in the next, inshallah. So these people know respect for the truth. They can lie, they can make excuse, whereas the believers, they take responsibility, and if they make mistakes, okay, you ask for forgiveness, you don't cover it up. So the dissemblers, this way, the dissemblers, what they are doing, actually, they are projecting their own self-worthlessness. I would say self-worth, but their worth is no worth, because our worth comes from our connection to our Rabb and our being conscious mirrors to the divine names. Anything else, even if we claim, even if someone has is very smart, very whatever, has lots of qualities that we value, which are actually not the person's, they are not ours, they are gifts, and we are like mirrors to them. Anytime they can leave us, we can forget. Someone can be very smart and suddenly has a brain stroke, and that's it. Can't do anything, can't even maybe talk or think or something. Together with that, even if nothing happens, we'll die and everything will end. So clearly we are not the source of what we may think, we may imagine is ours. Deep down, anyone who stops and reflects will understand that whatever is given to us is given, it's a gift, and it's not ours, and we are not the source. Even life, through which every other attribute, every other quality is reflected, even that is not ours, and we have no control over it. But the dissemblers don't want to accept that reality, so they act as if it's not there. This is the truth, this is the reality, but they ignore it and act as if there is, as if they were the source of something. But deep down, they know that whatever they are basing their worth on is not theirs, and eventually is not under their control, and eventually it is transient. And so actually their self-worth is a self-worthlessness. And so they project this self-worthlessness onto the world, onto the truth, and vice versa, because they disrespect, they give no importance to the truth. They become worthless, let's say. Their life becomes worthless. And so this way they depreciate the value of their life and the value of the truth. And they cover up the resulting weakness, the resulting that feeling of helplessness and weakness with arrogance and conceit, as it is alluded in the words, إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. We were only, actually it's not we were only mocking, literally is we were only mockers. It's an active participle. And it's important to remember using a verb and using an active participle makes a big difference in Arabic, as we referred when it was saying الذين آمنوا or المؤمنون, for instance. So in the phrase, when they meet those who believe, they say, we believe. وإذا لقوا الذين آمنوا قالوا آمنا. It indicates there being, how do you say bootlicker, like someone who is servile and always flattering others to seek their own benefits. I don't know what a good word in English is. It means they are acting according to the condition, not being true to themselves, but they're looking at the conditions, the situation, what does it require, and acting accordingly. There's no authenticity, no integrity. And the word used here is إذا, when. And it expresses certainty. And so it means that it's definite, there is deliberate, intentional, how do you say, an intentional, not attitude. What they are doing is deliberate and intentional. It means the dissemblers deliberately intend to meet the believers, because it says وَإِذَا لَقُوا. لَقُوا means to coming face to face with someone. And so here the verb لَقُوا, they meet, shows that they intend to come face to face to the believers. So it's like they're looking for them and coming into their face and saying, we believe. And the expression, we are told الذين آمنوا. So when they come face to face with those who believe, rather than face to face with the believers, المؤمنين, is also an indication that the dissemblers have, how do you say, direct contact. They are in touch with each other. The dissemblers and the believers are all always they have things to do with each other. And it means that the reason for these relationships between the believers and the dissemblers is actually belief. This is very important. Because it means that these people are not in touch with the believers for any kind of reason. It could be someone is painting your house, or doing some work or something. That doesn't mean that the person could be doing something else. He's not claiming belief, so he's not a hypocrite. He's clear. No, these people are in touch with the believers because they claim belief. So what unites them, what puts them in touch with each other is belief. And that's why this makes the hypocrites deceitful liars. For some reason, it means they know that belief is not only what characterizes the believers, the muttaqin, the God conscious, but also it's the most outstanding of their attributes. And that's why they know that, and they keep saying, we believe. And the fact that we're told they say, qalu, there is a hint that they are saying, it's words only, words with the mouths, but it does not reflect what's in their hearts. And so it shows that they are fake and inauthentic. And how do we understand this? The very fact, when they meet those who believe, it means they are making an intention, they're intentionally going to meet the believers, and then suddenly we believe out of the blue. If someone comes out of the blue and tells you, I believe, every time they see you, but you can guess that something is off. It's actually an indication that these people feel the need to prove themselves when no one is accusing them directly. It means they feel either that you are suspecting them or they've done something, they feel guilty, and they want to cover it up. It's like the best way is with the children. You can see it very clearly when, if you have a small child, or when you can remember when your kids were small, if they come suddenly and tell you without being asked, I did not eat the cake in the kitchen, what does it mean? You immediately run to the kitchen to check the cake, because for sure, if the kid suddenly, without being asked, said that, it means he did eat it. You just want to check maybe how much he ate. So here it's the same way. The dissemblers know, they know at least that they are guilty of all the crimes mentioned since Ayah 8. And they feel the need to cover the crimes and prove their innocence. And reject any potential accusation or if they are being suspected, they feel it. So the phrase and they say, we believe, amanna. Interestingly, they are not using any intensive form. There is no, we do believe, really we believe, not at all. Although the context requires, you would expect them to affirm or assert that they do believe, because the dissenters want to assure the believers of their belief. But they don't. And also they say we believe, they don't say we are believers. They're using a verb, and that reflects a lack of passion. Some commentators, Mufassirun, said the fact that they are not using any intensive form when you would expect them to do so is an indication that it's actually hard for them to refute potential accusations against them. It means their dissembling is a little bit hard to cover up. It's quite, anyone who is attentive is aware that these people can't be true believers, because they claim something and they do something else. So in some way, they are not making much effort. They're not being assertive, because somehow it wouldn't make much difference, because it seems they've gone so far in their corruption that they're pretty much exposed, let's say. And they don't claim to be believers, because if you say we are believers, the active participle has a connotation of constancy. And so they would mean that we are constant and persistent in our belief. No, they say we believe. I could believe once, not all the time. It's not clear. If we say I am a believer, that means I'm identifying with belief all the time. And when they are alone with their Satan, they say, we're really with you. So when it comes to the Satans, they assert, there is an intensive there. Innama, they say, innama. No, قالوا إنا معكم. So there is the inna, which is an intensive form. And the إذا is again used. وإذا خلوا إلى شياطينهم. So the إذا here has a connotation that the dissembler are going back and forth. It's like they're vacillating between different stands, and it shows that they have no true stand, no true value. They change value, they change camps, let's say, according to what they think benefits them. It's a very dangerous attitude, position for the people around them and for themselves primarily, because they never get to know who they are, what they truly want. They are just following their Satan, their evil commanding ego blindly. And so here, the fact that it says when they are with, it expresses, remember, when expresses definiteness, it's definite. It indicates that they are intentionally, they know what they're doing. And the fact that, so it means what is making them waver between the different stand is not that they are genuinely indecisive. They still could not figure out the truth. No, not at all. It's clear from the language that what is making them waver is their own depravity, their own inauthenticity, their own unwillingness to accept the truth. And so the consequence is depravity and corruption, but they don't care, because all they care about is what they think will benefit them. And this is very scary.
Dr. Yamina, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
I
salam.
have a question. I didn't understand when you said about that amanna, right? When they say amanna, it's a verb form, right?
Yes.
Okay, but remember in Surah Al Imran 193, the Muslims also say the same thing, right? Don't they say amanu? So what is the difference?
We have to look at the other one in its context.
You know, I was looking at, you know, when from 190 to 195, those famous Innana Samena Innana Samena Munadi Yunadi Liliman. Then it says, hold on, where have we come?
But there it was an answer,
Amen.
aminu. It was not saying, coming and saying without saying we believe, instead of saying we are believers. There is they are asked aminu, they say amanna.
They say fa amanna. Fa amanna.
So they are answering there. They're responding to the call.
Okay, so but that's the same verb, right? That's my question.
Yes.
I see. Okay. It's
yes.
not.
There they are asked to believe. Aminu birabbikum. Believe in your Rabb, in your sustainer. And they answer amanna. Fa'amanna.
And then they elaborate also.
Yeah.
And
further, it means immediately they respond to the call. They don't hesitate.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're further saying faghfir lana zunubana kaffir sayyiatina tawaffana ma'al abrar. So I mean that shows how deep
but here
their understanding is.
Here they could have said, for instance, either we are believers or we truly are believers, if they want to show their beliefs, but they say we believe. What matters is what comes after. When it comes to their Satans, they say we are really with you. There they use a confirmation or intensive. So in contrast, you can see how they speak to the believer, how they speak to their Satans.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And the content and the context is totally different. I was just linguistically asking a question.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Jazakallah.
So here the verb is when they are alone. It's a verb actually. وإذا خلوا, which I said before implies seclusion. It infers that because of their duplicity, because of their dissembling and deceit, they are scared, and as a result of that fear, they conceal themselves. And they say, we are really with you. So they express assertion. Two things are going on here. There is an assertion, we are really, the really, and they are not using a verb here. And because they are not using a verb, it has this, they're asserting to be constant in their way of deceit and wickedness, to be constantly with their Satans. They used a verb for Iman, so they only spoke about that time and no assertion. And when it came to being with their Satan, there is an intensive being used, really. They are asserting, plus they are not using a verb to express constancy. And all these things are showing how there is something deliberate going on here. That's what matters. It's not like they don't know, because before there was لا يشعرون, لا يعلمون, they are not aware. Yes, they are not aware, but they made their choice. After that choice, they are not aware anymore. But the choice they are making at the beginning is a deliberate, intentional choice. Otherwise, it's not a choice. It's not like they find themselves there. And that happens to all of us in many areas of our lives. There are many things that we find out somehow, like sometimes some feelings, we feel compelled to say, to do something, to feel in a particular way. And it seems like it's beyond our choice, beyond our intention. We can't change it. But underneath that is an attitude, is something that we choose to be in. And afterwards, it goes out of control. It's like someone decides to jump off a cliff, and then falling is out of control. So we have to be careful about our choices, inshallah. And that's why we need, we ask for help, and we ask to be guided to the right path, Sirat al-Mustaqim, so many times on a daily basis, because there are so many things that are beyond our control and beyond our, sometimes we don't even imagine how things are interrelated. And we don't imagine the consequences of some of the choices that we may be making foolishly without even thinking. And without thinking, making choices is just because I'm not thinking, that's not a good excuse. I suppose we are given the abilities and the tools and everything to think and weigh our choices and to live more mindfully, more intentionally, inshallah. And so at least we need to make the intention and ask for help and make lots of istighfar, because often we may slip. So here the fact that they say, we are really with you, قالوا إنا معكم, it means here they are confirming, they are using an intensive form and a confirmative and an assertion, although no one is telling them anything. The context here does not require it, as when they were talking to the believers, they felt the need to assert themselves. Here they are with their own Satans. They are alone in seclusion. They don't need to affirm anything, yet they do. No one is accusing them of the opposite. It's a sign of their eagerness. They are so eager of being with their own Satans. Subhanallah, astaghfirullah. And remember, Satan here means either their own impulses that they follow, which are like Satan, or people. And actually, the first one comes unless they are following their own impulses. They will not follow people that are like Satan's. And both these people now it's not even people. There are so many things going on in the world. They are more anonymous, and they do, like they make evil suggestions. They call onto wickedness, but they will only have an impact on us and affect us to the extent that we gave in to those inner impulses, the hidden impulses, because Satan is both hidden and makes evil suggestions, and the result is harm. They cause harm like Satan's, and all they can conceive is evil. There's no goodness in Satan. Subhanallah, it's so scary. And here they are, again, I'm saying, not only they're saying we really, but they are not using a verb. So the fact they're using jumla ismiya, which is like a nominal sentence, a nominal clause, whereas the previous one was amanna, a verbal one, it indicates that they are claiming constancy in dissembling, constancy in deceit, but inconstancy in belief. They don't want to say we are believers when actually the context is where they should be saying we are believers. And this reminds me of the ayah that I had mentioned some before, where it tells us when you are not busy with dhikrillah, dhikr rahman, when you're not busy with remembrance of God, of the compassionate, then we will have a Satan, Satan becomes our other selves. In Surah Al-Zukhruf, so it's talking about these people who have all this wealth and gold and everything, and then Surah Al-Zukhruf, is Surah 43, so ayah 35, 36. We're told, yet all that wealth and gold and in this life would have been nothing but a brief enjoyment of life in this world, whereas happiness in the life to come awaits the God conscious with your sustainer, with your Rabb. But as for anyone who remains blind to the remembrance of the most compassionate of the Rahman, وَمَنْ يَعْشُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّدْ لَهُ شَيْطَانًا فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. So those who remain blind, those who do not who do not remember the most compassionate, to that person we assign an enduring Satan to become his other self. Astaghfirullah. So and I mentioned that time that it's not a matter of neutrality, it's a matter of either we are remembering the Rahman, remembering God with his beautiful names, seeing his beautiful names reflected in everything, meaning that we perceive everything as signs, as mirrors to the divine. Wherever you turn, there is Wajh Allah, there is the countenance of God. Or if we're not in that state of being, then we're busy with this Satan will become like our other self. We will have a fake self that is always busy with evil things. Astaghfirullah. And we are told in Surah An-Nisa, which is Surah 4, Ayah 38, God does not like those who spend their possessions to show off, the while they'll believe neither in God nor in the last day. And anyone who has Satan for a soulmate, for qareen, the same word, for another self, how evil an other self, or how evil a soulmate he has. which means when there is no true belief in God and the Yawm al-Akhir, the last day, then even spending, even giving charity, even spending our possessions will become a matter of showing off, because it can't be genuinely. It's not for God, it's not Bismillah, it has no truth in it, it's not related to the beautiful names of God, therefore not connected to Akhirah. It's abtar, has no fruitful, lasting fruits in Akhirah. And this action is an example of someone who has Satan as a qareen, as his other self. And it's mentioned in other places as well. In Fussilat, in Surah Fussilat, it starts, ayah 25, starts, وَقَيَّدْنَا لَهُمْ قُرَنَاء. We assign them other selves. We assign to them other selves. Why? Because of the way they live their life. They have fake selves that take over, subhanallah. And those fake selves are based on a totally false perception of the reality of life, of everything. And in that false perception, there is no room for belief in God and in Akhirah. Even if the person is claiming to believe in, the reality is that they don't. Because if they do, then everything is going to change. As we saw with belief, how the impact of belief on the believers and the impact of dissembling on the dissemblers. So they said we were only mocking, إنما نحن مستهزئون, and it comes قالوا إنا معكم إنما نحن مستهزئون. So they say, we're really with you, we were only mocking. And there is no conjunction between the two. There is no and between the two, because in Arabic, you use a conjunction. Well, let's say you don't use a conjunction to join sentences when they are totally unconnected. There's no, you don't say this and that, because they are totally unconnected. Or if they are so similar, there is no need to use and, because it's so clear. Actually, it's almost like they overlap, almost like one can substitute the other one, and one is explaining the other one. And it's explaining it, or let's say corroborating the other one. So the second one, we're mocking, is telling us what they mean by we're with you. And the fact that they're saying we're mocking is clearly tells us how they have no respect for the truth. Actually, it's let alone disrespect, it's almost like contempt. We're making fun of it, of the truth and the people of the truth. And therefore, if they are making fun of the truth, it means, whether they realize it or not, the fact is they are exalting falsehood. And the fact is that they are, how do you say, not exalting, but like the followers of falsehood are almost like taken more seriously than the believers, the followers of the truth. And so here, when they are saying we are really with you, it is as though the hypocrites are answering a question, as if it's not there in the text, but as if their Satans are saying to them, like, if you are with us, then why are you claiming to be with the believers? Either you are with the believers, or you are with us, like Satan's telling them. And they are so apologetic, and they reply, we're only mocking. And so now in this ayah and in this expression, they are explicitly stating that they are not believers. If you are mocking the truth, if you are mocking the believers, then you can't be a believer. And they know it. It's not like before we were still, are they really? Maybe they don't really know. Now there is no room for that anymore, no doubt about it anymore. And the fact that they say we are only mocking, the only there, innama, shows that they are not hesitant. They are sure. They are sure that they are mocking. And they are not using a verb here. They are using an active participle, mustahzi'un. And this indicates that their mocking is, they see it, they want to identify with mocking. We are mockers, they are saying actually. When it came to belief, they didn't want to say we are believers. When it came to mocking, they said we are mockers.
Sister Yamina, I have a question here. In terms of applying these to our own selves and in a lesson for our own selves. So if I honestly look into myself, does it mean that I can see that there's a side in me that knowingly turns away? Because in the previous session, we said that this hypocrites is also a category of people who are kind of going back and forth. They are not settled, like they're constantly in a state of doubt. And by spending so many ayat, like a dozen ayat here in Surah Al-Baqara, there is also the implication that by highlighting the gravity, in the Quran wants, our Lord wants us to kind of go away from that hypocritic munafiqun, or that dissembling situation. So how do we put the two together? I mean, how on one it looks like that side in me that is dissembler is in a state of constant confusion and hesitation that becomes at the same time it looks like it knows that it doesn't believe, not just it's confused. Or
the two things are not contradicting.
How so?
I mean, I can be confused as far as taking a stand with the truth, but it doesn't mean that I don't know that it's the truth. I know it's the truth, and I know what I'm doing is wrong, and I'm still going on with the wrong, but from time to time I'm still like, if it's a mu'min, if it's a believer who has this, it's going to be different than someone who is totally hypocrite. But it's going still, those two, what you said, being confused, the confusion and the knowing are together, can go together. You think that we are confused only when we don't know the truth. Actually, when we don't know, we are less confused because we don't know. There is nothing to be confused about. When we are confused, it means we know, but we are confused as far as using our free will, choosing is concerned. Otherwise, I wouldn't be choosing anything if I did not know. I wouldn't be even responsible for it. But now that there is confusion, it implies that I know. And it implies that I am confused not confused as far as the truth is concerned. I know it's the truth. The confusion is about me following the truth. And I know that it is the best thing to do, but if it were so easy, like it would be like we would have no free will. I learned the truth. I know it's the truth. I now know that it is the best way to follow. Then everyone should be following the truth. But why don't we, all of us, follow the truth all the time? although we know it, because there is another part of us that trying to pull us away and confusing us. And so we have, until we become grounded in surrendering, we become grounded in the truth, like the muttaqin that were described at the beginning, there is this going back and forth, but the going back and forth is a going back and forth in the using our free will, in making a decision and choosing what is right, rather than just following our Satan's. It's not about, we are not sure about the truth. That's why I said before, the indecisiveness is not that they are not sure about the truth, but it's indecisiveness in free will, in using their, in making the right choice. I'll give a very simple example that is not related to Iman directly, let's say. Let's say I know that I shouldn't be eating too much sugar, or maybe sugar is bad for me. I get skin allergy or something, but when I see some cake, some sweets or something, I cannot stop myself. Is it because really I cannot stop myself? I cannot imagine it's not there? No, I can. But I have not trained myself. In Ramadan, for instance, we know you can't eat, so whatever you put in front of me, I am not even tempted. But outside Ramadan, I'm tempted by the smallest, silliest things. It only shows that I'm not trained in that, I have not trained my free will in that small area, in that area, for instance, of sweets. My reason tells me this is how it is. I have already experienced it. It's harmful, it's painful. And yet I go and I know the truth. In the beginning, maybe if it's close, like just few days after having a skin allergy, it was, how to say, itchy and painful, I may hesitate. A month later, I totally forgot and I tend to. And sometimes we don't directly go and eat. We're hesitant. Shall I not? Shall I have a little bit? When I'm saying this, when I'm hesitating, when I'm confused, I'm not confused. I know exactly that this is sweet and it is harmful to my body. Yet, I still have that, I'm hesitating because I have not made my mind as we do in the beginning of Ramadan, inshallah. And so we don't, every day I don't ask, shall I eat, shall I fast, or shall I not? Because I made up my mind, that's it. There's no confusion. But some people may have the same problem with Ramadan. Not because they are not sure they should be fasting, but because of something else, because of the lack of resolution, the lack of having made a decision to follow the truth. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it is helpful. Yes. And where does the mocking come in? The mocking is where maybe when we don't align ourselves with what we think actually or what we know is true, then we start mocking that thing. There's a side in us that starts mocking it.
Well, mocking here, because they said it, it seems like I'm not saying it. So we are not sayers, inshallah. But we could be, it applies to us not as we are saying it explicitly with word, but maybe implicitly with our way of being, by not choosing to act according to what I know is true. I am, my action itself is a mockery, is making mockery of that truth. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
And we are told in reply that,
Question.
yes?
Assalamu alaikum. So I wanted to know about the state of heedlessness. So if one is in a state of heedlessness, would that also qualify as being on the hypocritical state of mind, or is that more of a lack of belief?
What do you think? Do you think heedlessness goes more with belief or more with hypocrisy?
I think it has to do with lack of belief. It can be both, actually, because you're not serious about.
Exactly. We are not. It does not mean that we don't know the truth. We may have learned it. We may know exactly. But before I know, it's excusable. That's where we all start. But after I know, if I still find myself very often in a state of heedlessness, then it means I am not serious about it. So I am more likely to fall into hypocrisy than not. So if I don't want to fall into hypocrisy, because I'm going to, if I am finding myself in heedlessness very often, it means I'm claiming something, but most of the time I'm not following it. When I'm not following it, it means in that state of heedlessness, hypocrisy is going to be part of the lot. And that's why we need to choose more, to make the intention to live more mindfully with Iman, to confirm our Iman, to live with that Iman. So the Iman is not only, it is mainly inside. It is an assertion in our heart, in our soul. And if it's truly an assertion, then we're going to act on it. The more we act on it, the more that assertion is going to grow in certainty inside. And it's going to reflect in more outward action. And so it becomes a cycle that feeds itself. And this cycle is like an ellipse. It's not going to always be at the same level. The acting and believing are going to grow and grow. That Iman is going to grow in certainty as we practice it. But if we don't practice it, it's going to atrophies. It atrophies and gets weaker and weaker. As the Prophet ﷺ says, if 2 days it's like are the same, it means the second day you're going backward. It has something the Iman is going to grow. It's something living. But it's thank you for the question, because ghafla and heedlessness can be or can lead us to hypocrisy. Even if we say, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. Yes, then make an effort to live more mindfully.
I like what you shared about that the Prophet said that 2 days cannot be similar. So if they're similar, then hey, there's something that needs to be worked on. So you should be really ascending or progressing. It's sort of like running the marathon, but I think that's what the struggle lies. I mean, keep on ascending every day. Like it's
Actually,
to me.
It looks like a struggle in the beginning, but once you get on track, it's not a struggle anymore, because we just intend and ask and seek help, and it is given to us. Then it's like when, I don't know if you've ever run for a long time, after a while you don't feel it, you're just like flying on the clouds. You don't feel like you are making an effort anymore. It becomes like you are not running.
Right. I know that feeling.
You become the running, as if.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you sort of like take a break after a while, it's really challenging to get back on track. I mean,
but you don't need to take a break, because this is not living with Iman is itself the break. It's like a small island of paradise in this world. It's peace, it's joy, it's happiness. It's so who would like a break from that?
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And in answer, we are told it is God who is mocking them. Or also it's been translated as God will throw back their mockery on them. Allahu yastahzi'u bihim. And this is a reply to an implied question. The question is not there in the text, but it's like the phrase, it is God who is mocking them, hints and implies that their wickedness has reached such a degree that the believer starts wondering what will happen to these people, or who will stop them, or are they going to be stopped? I'm sure all of us had, when we hear very bad news, you wonder what's going on here? Can these people, will they just carry on like this? There is no one to stop them to. So it's like as if there is a question there, an implied question, and we, the listeners, we would expect the believers to answer the hypocrites, to confront them and answer them. But it's not the believers that answer. Instead, it starts the following. The answer has God as the subject, as though God himself is replying instead of the believers. And this can be understood as an indication that God is honoring the believers and being compassionate to them, since he's their protector. And so being their protector is also being reflected here. They don't need to answer. He is answering. And also, so therefore, if he is the one who is the protector of the believers, then it's an indication that the dissemblers are being foolish, because mocking the believers means mocking the truth, mocking belief, mocking the truth. And that in itself is what they were saying, weak-mindedness. They're weak-minded. How can you mock the truth? The truth, you cannot avoid it. You cannot run away from it. It's your realities. Whether even if I reject it, it doesn't mean that I'm absolved from it. It is my reality. It will be just closing my eyes to it and fooling myself and deceiving myself. And so that's what they are doing. They're only deceiving themselves and making fool of themselves by thinking that they can mock the truth, the reality. And it's also interesting that the term mocking is used in relation to God's punishment to them. So in a way, you would think it's unfitting for God's exaltedness. But it's for us to have, imagine a conversation, making it like a conversation, so it's easier for us to understand what's going on. And it indicates clearly that the punishment is the punishment for their mockery. So they're not just punished just because they are called dissemblers. No, this dissembling has this mocking and has serious consequences. And that consequences, the consequences of their mockery will bring about a punishment. It's as if, I don't know how to express this, but let's say the punishment is the organic outcome of the crime, as though the crime is the seed that generates the punishment. So there is no injustice. Nothing is unfair here. Whoever, to the extent that there is hypocrisy and lying and deceit, to that extent there will be corruption, there will be all other things, looking down on others, arrogance and things. And to that extent there will be punishment, because not only the person themselves are harming themselves, but they are harming others as well. And so the next phrase specifies the form of the punishment for their mockery. And it says, what is the punishment for their mockery? And allowing them more slack to wander blindly to and fro in their insolence. Some have translated it as, or give them rope in their trespasses, so they will wander blindly to and fro. وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. And so we all understand from all this that the dissemblers' mocking of the believers does not profit them. Instead, it only harms them, and especially it destroys their, they are not fulfilling their potential humanity, their potential of ahsan taqweem, of best. What was ahsan taqweem translation of it? The best of configuration, the best. They're creating in the best potentials.
Patterns?
Let's say in the best pattern. But instead of fulfilling that beautiful potential, that beautiful humanity, they are wasting it in evil things. And so that seed of humanity, instead of growing into this beautiful tree with beautiful fruits and flowers, is going to rot and perish, and it's going to have an impact on their eternal life and their eternal happiness, not only in this world. It means the consequences are connected not only to this world, but to the next world. And so it's a huge harm that they are doing, particularly to themselves, because when they're harming others, they will harm others only to the extent those people, it will depend on how, if a dissembler is harming me, it will depend on my response to what's going on. It can be harmful, it may not be harmful if I take it as an opportunity to seek help from God and to fulfill my potential. So primarily, they are really harming themselves, and that's why we are warned against dissembling. And so again, we can see how having certainty in the hereafter is so very important and significant, because, and it was, remember, one of the qualities of the muttaqin, because, as I keep repeating, I repeat it to myself primarily, belief in akhirah gives us a totally different perspective. The perspective becomes the world and what's going on. What we call the world is really what's going on here and now, because yesterday, this morning, 10 minutes before is not here, and 10 minutes later, tomorrow, and the future is not here either. So it's only in our illusion and delusion, because of our mindlessness, that, or whatever the reason, forgetting the truth, not honoring the truth, that we it seems like it's such a big thing. But when we see life, this world, this here and now, in the perspective of akhirah, then we can perceive it for what it is truly. And so our perception of the world, our perception of life, of ourselves, of our actions, our aspirations, everything is going to change. And when we have the certainty of akhirah. And so it becomes so much easier to act on our beliefs, because when we have certainty of akhirah, it becomes easy to surrender. It becomes easy to to really feel the reality of the potential help that we have. And because we can't compare anymore when we don't have certainty of akhirah. First, our belief in God is not really grounded. It's hanging in the air, really. It's not a true belief. And we don't want to to accept the reality that the world is transient. And so we forget that how much vulnerable, how much fragile, how much help we need. And so as if we're comparing this world and akhirah, as though they were comparable. But when we have that certainty of akhirah, there is no way to compare. There is no way to compare. One is flowing, leaving, transient, and the other one is the reality, the stable, the only permanent world. So what are we comparing? And when we stop comparing, it becomes so much easier to surrender, to seek help, to believe, to act according to that belief. And we start taking joy and pleasure in that surrender, in that seeking help and support from our Rabb, in our knowing that we are not orphans in this world. We have a protector, that our Rabb is our generous host, that he's loving, compassionate, and that we are on a journey here. So what saddens us, yes, we are sad, but it's only a reminder that it's transient. So our sadness doesn't overwhelm us. It becomes a sign, a signpost guiding us to remember our true reality of being abd, our true destination, and that we are only travelers here. And so it becomes easy to be truthful to our beliefs, and it becomes easier to not fall to potential dissembling within us by being not truthful to our conscience, to our beliefs. And it also becomes easy not to be a pawn for the dissemblers, for the dissembling within us and the dissemblers around us. And the dissemblers around us can only affect us to the extent that we are dissembling within us. And we can do all this without even realizing, because of ghafla. But ghafla, we are responsible for it. Heedlessness, mindlessness, we are responsible for it, because it's not something to be excused. It's not like, oh, it's ghafla. Why don't we have ghafla about other things that we care about? Ghafla is a sign that I'm not taking the truth seriously. So I have to go and revise. If I'm truthful, then I say, oh, what's going on here? I keep forgetting. I go and ask around me, do you keep forgetting? Or how did you stop forgetting? What did you do about it? And then we will be shown the way. It'll be easy to, once we want and ask, then as we are told in the Quran, God says, if you ask me, I will answer you, inshallah. And then they said, allowing them more slack to wander blindly to and fro here, and it says, and in their insolence, fi tughyanihim. And they're there in their insolence, in their rebellion, indicates that they voluntarily choose rebellion, choose insolence. And it means that they are not being forced. When we go into ghafla, for instance, we are not being forced. We can just as well find ways to be more mindful. People go and work on mindfulness when it's not even mindfulness of God. They just want to be mindful of themselves, subhanAllah, and they spend lots of time. They think it's better than being mindless. So Can you imagine? We can be mindful of ourselves being abd, because our ubudiyya, our being abd, is the mirror to rububiyyah. The fact that I am being made to breathe now reflects, or is the sign, the ayah, the mirror, that I am being made to breathe. Someone is making me breathing. Someone is breathing life into me. There is somewhere, a source of life. And so I become more and more aware of the source of life, and my gratitude starts going to my Rabb. I start knowing my Rabb with his beautiful names more and more. And the more I know him, the more I won't be able to forget him, because everything around me and within me will remind me of him. So if I am forgetting God, if I'm not remembering God, it means my perception of the world, my perception of themselves is lacking. Okay, so no problem. We can start wherever we are, as long as we start, as long as we make that decision to start living more mindfully as abd, inshallah. So here, in their insolence, it's not like they find themselves in rebellion, in insolence. It's a choice. It's a voluntary choice. It means they're not being forced, and therefore they may not be excused. And that's why we need to also, inshallah, choose something that will have beautiful results and beautiful consequences, because we don't want to be in their situation, inshallah. And the term tughyan, which is translated as many things, insolence, rebellion, and other things, it has the connotation of something tagha, exceeds all bounds. And so there is an indication that their harm exceeds all bounds. They've gone so far. It's like you have this image of their harm, their corruption has submerged everything that is good and truthful, like a flood. And so it's destroying the goodness. Not only is destroying goodness, it's destroying the foundation of goodness. You know, the values that ground goodness, that make people want to be better. It's like this corruption, this depravity is destroying the foundations that protect and encourage goodness, the foundation that makes goodness and truthfulness thrive. And so all that remains is treachery, deceit, lying, immorality. And at the end, we're told they wander blindly to and fro. في طغيانهم يعمهون. It means they are bewildered, they are confused, baffled. And that's, Isra had asked, so if they are confused and baffled, if they go through and fro, does it mean that they are not sure? No, they are going from one, because they're not true to themselves. They stand with whoever they think is going to give them power, validate them, whatever they want. They're not even true to themselves. They're not following their conscience. So it's nothing to do with being confused about the truth. And so it indicates that they have no true belief. And they have no fixed, no established goal, no established values. They just follow their Satans. They just follow whatever they want that time, and whatever they desire that at a particular moment is, they will follow whoever will help them in acquiring it. That's why they keep going to and fro. Who is going to help me? Where is my benefits? That's what they are bewildered about, not about the truth. And why is this so? We're told in the next ayah, in ayah 16, because they have both error in exchange for guidance, so their trade or their bargain reaps no profit, and they have not found They have not found guidance. So they don't find guidance because they have exchanged guidance for something else. They made a trade. They bargained. They're looking for some worldly benefits. And those worldly benefits, even those worldly benefits actually are not true benefits. But because they have no true vision, because there is no akhirah in their perspective, they think it's going to help them. But it's totally worldly, transient, and therefore, with that attitude, an attitude that exchanges error, they buy error in exchange for guidance, of course they will not find guidance. They already are close to it. And then there are parables given. Actually, I strongly recommend that you go and read until ayah 26. And just reading, like without even reflecting too long, will give you will see how beautiful it comes. Ayah 26 is related to God does not shy from drawing a similitude of a net or even smaller thing. Those who have believed know that it is the truth from their Rabb, but the unbelievers say, what does God mean by this similitude? And it comes there in a very beautiful way, subhanallah.
And commercials, we have our receiving your video.
I was going to say.
Oh, okay, please go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, please go. So you can find it on our YouTube channel, and it was also announced in newsletter last week and this week.
So it's this video is about this ayah 26 of Surah Al-Baqara, and Sarah is the one who helped put it in a video and worked hard on it. So thank you, Sarah. Inshallah, she will work on more. So inshallah, next week, or actually it will be this week, we will meet on Sunday at 2 p.m. This is what I understood, right, Isra?
Yes.
Yeah.
Inshallah, this Sunday, it's going to be Ramadan, our first Sunday of Ramadan.
Inshallah. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Allahumma ahillahu alayna bil amni wal iman wal salamati wal islam. Rabbi wa rabbukum Allah. It is Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna is a dua that we make, especially more in Ramadan. It means, oh God, you are forgiving and you love forgiveness, so forgive us. And the other one is a dua also that we make before Ramadan and during Ramadan, meaning, oh God, make Ramadan a start full of peace and faith and iman and safety and Islam and surrender. Rabbi wa rabbukum Allah. God is my Rabb and your Rabb. It means our Rabb, inshallah. Rabbun Allah. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khair, Sister Yamina, and Amin. So inshallah, blessed Ramadan, and we'll see you Sunday after Dhuhr Eastern time at 2 p.m. Same Zoom link. I also just sent the clip link for the one that we have just mentioned about the fly reference in the Quran. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. And please keep everyone in your prayers, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah.
Alaikum assalam. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Ramadan Mubarak, inshallah.
Yeah, to all of you. Ameen.